So tell me about another one.
All right. Well, let's see. I was gonna save my biggest one for last, so I have to remember which ones I've already mentioned. So I've mentioned the Random Nerdiness Collective.
Yeah.
I've mentioned the Press Spots Internationale. Oh, and then the community building movement. So I did that one as like a replacement basically for coffee times with Winston
Yeah. Yeah.
because I don't know if a lot of people know this, and I'm not really especially proud of the fact that this happened because of me, but his publication was shut down because of something I had started.
Yeah.
Because when I had read an article that he had greenlighted back in August that was very offensive to the community that I belong to, LGBTQ community, I felt like there was something that needed to be done. I didn't want to get shut down his publication. That's not what my goal was. My goal was to get him to take that story down and take accountability for what had happened.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't want him to leave and feel like he needed to have a nervous breakdown, all this, and basically move the coffee times off of Medium, which he has done at this point. He's on Substack now, I think, or something. But I definitely felt like something needed to be said because I know people make mistakes, and that's great. Like, we're all human. Like, I'm an editor. I've made mistakes. You could even, I mean, we all make mistakes, you know.
Yeah.
It was in that light after he had decided and he said that I'm not going to fight this. I'm going to go off. I felt like there's a huge hole. Coffee Times was a huge movement for the whole community at Medium, and I wanted to continue something like that in the spirit of what he was trying to do. So I started not Coffee Times, sorry, that's his, the community building movement, because I wanted people who were previously a part of that movement to join what I was doing, and just because, that movement was more about the community and not necessarily one person. And I wanted people to feel comfortable putting their old stories in there and putting new ones in there that they would normally want to put in something like that. So it was inspired. It was definitely an inspired publication, and it was one that I wanted to strengthen the community bond with by starting.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you brought up Coffee Times because I spoke to Winston a few times. I always felt that there was a little bit of maybe not awkwardness. I reached out to him a few times and I felt there was something that wasn't quite right with my conversations with him. I felt that I offered an olive branch and I almost felt that he was a little bit competitive, or maybe didn't like what I was doing. I won't talk too much about it. I keep my thoughts because, of course, he's not here to defend himself. But I was reached out to him with honor and integrity, and I wrote for his publication. And I sent many articles his way.
So did I.
Wrote about his publication. I promoted his publication on YouTube as well to try and get us aligned together. But I always felt as if I was almost competing with him to a degree. Whilst I don't mind competition as a sportsman, as I mentioned, I don't mind competition, but my focus on Medium is, as you know, is stronger together. Let's work together. We can all win in this game. And as much as I was sad to see the publication go, because I thought it was very well run, what happened was inexcusable. And, there has to be accountability. He was the man at the top who ran the publication, and everything goes through him. And you shouldn't feel guilty or worried about anything you did. What you do is absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned. I think you expressed your opinions in the correct manner. You did it the right way. And he chose to react in the way that he did, and he's now no longer on Medium. It's a shame because it's a good publication.
Yeah.
But you can't condone things like that, as far as I'm concerned, people make mistakes, but I think it was, I don't even know whether he offered you an apology, but it certainly, I wouldn't have run away. I'll put it that way. I may have left medium, but I would have polished it a little bit more than what he did. It's as far as I'm concerned, I saw a quote on Facebook the other day, and I think it said something like, you know, we've all got red blood or something like that. You know, what's on the outside, no matter how tall you are, how short, how fat, how thin, what color, you know, what religion, what sexuality. For me, it's all about the soul. And it's something I touched on with Sierra when I spoke to him. But do you know what? I just want people to be happy. And if they're happy, and they're not causing anybody any harm, does it matter? That's how I feel about things, you know. I wasn't brought up like that. My dad was very, very strong-minded. You know, growing up in when was he born? In the 1930s. Life was very different back then, as probably you appreciate, growing up through life, and maybe you've seen a shift in how people's thought processes to particular groups, let's call it. And he was very narrow-minded and tunnel-visioned. So I grew up with that attitude, but then very quickly going into high school, met people that had a difference of opinion, and lived in a different way. And thankfully, I was intelligent enough to understand that what's different, we're all the same. You know, we all bleed the same, don't we? You know, we all go to the toilet and wipe our bottom with toilet paper. We're all the same, aren't we? You know, and that's how I feel about it. I've become very, very more open. I just wish other people would as well. There's so much hate in the world, you know, and we should be loving each other, not killing each other and saying horrible things. So yeah, for me, there's no excuse. And I hope you don't feel guilty, because you've got no reason to. You know,
for a little bit, but it got to a point where I realized that he was going to do what he was going to do at the end of the day, and I have no control over what that was.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You know, you lay your bed and you sleep in it, and at the end of the day, if he hadn't done what he'd done, he would still be on medium. So I mean, that's my 2 pence worth. And maybe I said too much, but I don't care. I just rather speak my mind and tell the truth. So
Same here.
That's how I feel about it. But you've got more publications, and I interrupted you. Sorry. So
no, you're okay. Well, okay. So now the next one, out of the ones that I own, this is the biggest one currently. Not humongous. I have 262 people involved with that publication, but it's a decently sized, smaller publication. Digital Global Traveler. So that is travel, geography, languages, culture, just running the gamut of global. It's a global publication. We want to learn about different people's cultures. We want to learn about your travels. You know, a lot of the stories that have been published lately, though, are mode travel focused, because I was also previously an editor over at Globetrotters.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Warren Patterson's previous, that was his brainchild, and well, now he's not on Medium anymore, but you know, like he started that, and now it's being led by a competent and wonderful woman, Joanne Ryan, who's she's pretty great. I worked with her and Adrienne and Jillian and Ann Bonfort for months. So they're all beautiful people over at Globetrotters, and I left there because I couldn't handle that large load of editing at that point. So I decided to just leave, and I let them know beforehand.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew Warren. Warren's a really decent guy, and I bonded with him fairly early. And sad that he's no longer with us. But he may return. The last time I spoke to him, it wasn't a definite gone. He may return to Medium. I hope he does in the future.
Wasn't he one of the people that you had selected previously for one of your editors at New Writers Welcome?
Yeah, he absolutely was. He had some personal reasons that I can't go on to on camera, but
No,
but,
that's his business. Yeah.
yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him. He's a really decent guy. He's very, very humble.
Yeah,
And
he is.
it's always interesting because obviously he handed the publication over. And I spoke to the owner of the Ascent. You've got a chance your luck, haven't you? I asked, can I take over the Ascent? Of course, it was a definite no chance. But that was a humongous publication. I think it was ranked in the top 3 at the time that it was closed. But I actually sent stories there 3 times, got rejected 3 times, and I got kind of lucky to a degree. I sent an article into them, and the reply was, I would publish this, but tonight I've decided to close the Ascent. So I was straight on writing a story. I was the first one that broke that news, and the article went absolutely viral. And I made a lot of money from that. Shame on me.
Awesome.
Probably shouldn't have done that. But he literally said, I'm closing it tonight. I'm going to make an announcement. So I literally wrote an article. I think it was about 3 minutes after he announced it. I hit I was there waiting. And as soon as he announced, I hit publish straight away.
I would have tried to scoop him.
No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I waited for the story to break first.
Yeah.
And I made a killing. Well, for me, it was a killing anyway, a couple of $100 on that one article. So yeah, very, very sad. But I did try and take it over, but he said no. And ironically, with that many followers, I think it was up to something like 300,000-400,000 followers. He had no editors. He did it all himself. Which I
Wow.
found incredible.
I
Not a single
not
editor.
even I feel like I could do that. Wow.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's a full-time job, because I would imagine you got paid quite a lump sum. As I mentioned in the YouTube video tonight, some of the big publications previously got paid to run those publications. I don't know officially what the figure is, but I'm led to believe publications at £1,000, sorry, $1,000 a month for being open. So that would have helped him a little bit as well. Of course, the bad form as well.
Yeah, Sally and I came up with that one. Well, I will say that Sally is the one who had the bollocks or the balls to do it.
Yeah.
But I actually egged her on when she first came up with the idea, because we were both jokingly talking about during the challenge in mid-form, Megan Urente's publication, that we didn't really. I'm not going to say we didn't really like doing the related lessons or like the things that we learned from the thing, writing it at the bottom.
Yeah.
But we wanted to come up with a joke that says, what if we put something down there that doesn't really go with the story, or like we do put a related lesson down there, but it's something bad. And we kind of rolled with the joke. And when I published my first story, I put unrelated lesson at the bottom of the screen. So then it would just be something random that didn't even have to do with my original story, but I just wanted to include the fact at the bottom. Megan was actually a pretty good sport about it when she found out about the publication when Christina had broke it. She actually joined as a follower, and I think she might be on, I don't know if she's a writer, but I know she follows the publication, and she knew it was good spirited. We weren't being mean. We weren't trying to like make her feel bad or anything, but that was definitely the inspiration behind starting Bad Form. Was I had complained about having to write those lessons at the end, and I'm just like, I don't want to have to do this every time I submit. So then I did it as a joke, made it ridiculous.
So we've got the short form, the mid form, and the bad form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love writing for Bad Form. Bad Form is just so free.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Let's see. So okay, we got Bad Form in there. Obviously I edit for you.
Yeah.
New writers welcome. I love doing that. You know how, yeah, go ahead.
No, go on, let me finish.
You were about to say something.
I was. I'll
Yeah.
keep it in here. Go on, you carry on.
For me, seeing these new writers submitting these stories and bringing these things to me, I love giving them a little bit of feedback, love telling them what they need to do to make sure that their story is in line with what we want in our publication in terms of like what we accept. Like, because I know a lot of people at times they try to find the submission rules and they can't really necessarily like read it through everything and process that in their first submission. So I give them a little bit of leeway. I tell them this is what we're expecting, and that I know you have a really standard way of doing that. And I love how you tell the people, like, you give them the link and, you know, tell them exactly what they need to do and what to read to make sure that their story's up to standard. But for me, I personalize it a little bit more. Like, I like to go in there and actually type out the words and say, hey, this is what we need from you. Could you go ahead and do this for us, please? Or if their story's not like something we would accept, like if it's not something that's a topic that we accept, I'm just like, hey, you know what? This isn't right for our publication, but I'm sure you could find a home for it. And if you would like to do this, like sometimes I'll direct them to my own publications. I'll be like, hey, you want to write, you can put it in this one. I mean, it would fit just fine,
Yeah.
or something like that. So, I mean, it's nice that we're all connected that way in terms of how like all of our publications are kind of connected on Medium in a certain way, especially with those who edit for more than one. So,
I mean, that's one of the things that I really love about you as an editor. People won't know this outside of our private chat, but as you know, I call you Lightning because you're just absolutely incredibly fast and so detailed. And you know, it might take me, you know, a couple of hours to edit these stories, and you're boom, 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 you're done, you're done, and you're gone. You know, you literally log on, you know, an hour later, you've done all your work for the day. I'm thinking, wow, how does he do that? But what I like is, like you said, is, you know, going in the personal detail. You're giving writers what we never had when we joined, which is the constructive feedback and trying to help them improve, so that they ultimately become better writers and better for our readers reading a story with a, you know, an improved format or grammar, whatever it may be. But also then having the foresight to say, look, this might not be quite right for us, but I've got some options for you. Because I think when new writers come onto the platform, very often, as I did when I joined, I had a straight, no, it's not good enough. Okay, what do I do now?
What else? Yeah.
But what you're doing is, you know, you're saying, well, this could fit, and here's some points there to get it to the standards that we need. Or failing that, it's a good standard, but it doesn't fit our niche in our publication. But here's some options. And I think, you know, it's nice for the newbie. I say that's not always newbies that write for us. But it's nice to get options. And that's kind of what I was alluding to at the start when we first started speaking about having that guidance. You're almost to a degree like a mentor, aren't you? You know, to some degree. So yeah, okay. Medium has gone through some changes. I'm going to talk about the article that Tony wrote recently, Boosting the Boost, and I've done a video and a follow-up article on it, which you may or may not have read, I'm not sure. But from when you first joined to how it is today, for you, has Medium progressed or has it digressed?
Well, that's a good question. It's actually something I've been thinking about, and something I was expecting you to maybe touch on when we got to this interview. I would say in a lot of ways, Medium has progressed in terms of what they're trying to do, but in a lot of ways, they've also regressed. Okay. And I'll get into it a little bit more. There's one feature that I used to remember working on my laptop that would be a very helpful feature for me to find other writers. So there used to be this like screen or section where it would show writers that you may want to follow. And it was much easier to find back then. You could find all these writers who wrote in certain topics, and they would show their bio and everything, and you'd be able to just like click on them, follow them if you liked what they were writing about. They kind of changed that and prioritized more of the design on the homepage as opposed to doing that. They still have like, you may know or you may want to follow this person on the side, but I feel like those options are a lot more limited these days.
Mhm.
And the other thing is too, they again made a recent change with the formatting just in the last week or two.
Yeah, they have.
Moving the stories and the stats and all that stuff from the left hand side to the right hand side underneath like your profile picture. And I keep clicking on the left side expecting to find it, and I have to find myself like moving my hand over, and I'm like, oh no, it's over here now. So like there are some, I mean, that's fine. That's not anything regressive or like, it's just a change. At that point, I see that as just a change. That's not something that's going to really hamper me at the end of the day. It's just inconvenient to have to adjust to it. The idea of paying publications again, though, coming this year, I think that's definitely a move back in the right direction. It's something that I had lobbied for personally to Tony himself when he wrote that he was the new CEO. I went into his story and I told him that. I said, you need to pay these editors, give the publications the power to earn some money again. Some other ideas that I had brought up too, he had brought back, like editing on your phone again, like being able to go on your phone and edit stories and write, because that was something that was taken away from the app for a while. Those are the major changes I can really think of. The feeds changed a bit, like in terms of the stories that you get prioritized to see first.
Yeah.
But not, change is change, and Medium's always going to go through those changes. So I mean, at the end of the day, we just have, as writers, I think we just have to adjust every time.
What advice would you give to yourself if you had the experience you have now, but were just about to join Medium? What would you tell yourself?
That's a really fascinating question. So I actually was thinking about this, and you can't turn back time. You can't go back and actually do it a different way, obviously. So for me, I think I would have told myself coming into this that if I wanted to write more, just go ahead and do it. Join the publications right when I start. I would have given myself a little bit more advice about how to set up my stories, what to write about, really. Because I really did come into this not knowing what I wanted to write about, which is why I went nicheless.
Yeah.
But I still feel comfortable going nicheless to a degree, even though more recently, since I have had at least 9 top writer badges in the course of my writing.
Wow.
Yeah, I rack them up. I get I've had NFL, sports, energy, travel, food. This happened to me. NBA. Let's see. Music. Health. I mean, this is just from writing everyday stories about myself and just telling people what's going on with me and just finding different topics to talk about at certain times. I've started to find where I really like to write about. Sports are a huge one for me. I could write about sports all day long. Like
really
literally.
It's really interesting because I mean I remember speaking to David B. Clear, and he's a fantastic cartoonist, and
I love him. He's funny.
Yeah, he obviously writes a little bit about his personal life in some of his comics, and then yeah, I don't know. He's just such an amazing drawer. I couldn't get over he drew his own stuff as well. And then I remember speaking to Art Bram about how authentic he is, and I mean that man just wears his heart on his sleeve. You can just not love Art Bram.
I love Art.
Thierry is such a sweet guy. He is just, you know, he's just such a sweet guy and easy to get along with. And you talk about niches and not having niches. One of the things I talked about with Sierin, he's actually got a pen name where he writes alternative content. He writes.
I'm subscribed.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, I won't give away his name because that's not mine to give away, and I know he's very selective about telling people about that, so I won't bring it up. But I enjoy his stuff under that pen name.
Yeah, so he writes a little bit of erotica. Now, I will say that I've talked to him a little bit about it, and I feel terrible. I've not actually written. I have not actually read any of his erotica stories, and it's something that I do need to press on and read, because he definitely intrigues me from what he's said to me, as he's talked a little bit about things that he may be a little bit uncomfortable about talking about in everyday life. Of course, he's going through a process in his personal life at the moment, which he found quite difficult at a young age, and as let's say, he's expressing himself a little bit more these days now as well. I mean, it must have been tough growing up as a gay man, effectively. And I believe, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, I believe you told me that you didn't come out till quite late.
Yeah, that's correct.
So just if you feel comfortable, just tell me a little bit about maybe when you first discovered that you were a gay man, and how that was for you speaking to friends and family about it.
Sure, yeah. No, I'm definitely comfortable talking about my sexuality. At first, I was very uncomfortable even bringing it up or talking about it with friends and family. But as I've gotten older, you know, I'm 40 years old now. So like I've gotten to a point where I'm very comfortable with myself, and I've been out now for over 11 years. So it's not too touchy of a topic for me anymore. I'll rewind a little bit though, from the initial part of your question, because I did think wrongly for a long time that I was actually not gay. So because I was in the closet for so long, I dated women for a long time in my 20s, like my teens and 20s. I dated a few women, and I thought maybe this could be something that I could do, you know. And at the time, my last girlfriend, who I had dated right before I came out, she had come out to me and said she was bisexual, and I said the same thing to her. Yeah, so we both thought that we were bisexual.
Yeah.
And we dated for a year. She was an older woman. She's like 21 years older than me. So she, at the time I was like 28, 29, she was almost 50.
Yeah.
And this relationship had gone on for a year, and we were very comfortable in our relationship. You know, we did all the things that a regular couple would do. But then when it got to the point around Valentine's Day, she had sprung on me one day. She said, "I love you." And I just froze. And I was like, I think I'm all the way gay now, and I don't think I can love you like that.
Yeah.
And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, did I just say that out loud to my girlfriend?
Wow.
And that's really when I started to discover for myself that I was maybe not being as true to myself as I thought I should be. Because I've been engaged twice in the past to a woman, and my heart was broken both times. One of the women actually left me for my sister, which is another story that I've written on Medium. Actually, you can find that story in one of my 750 plus stories that I've written so far on Medium.
Will you send me that story, because I'd like to link it as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
that's an incredible story, and for me, that's a must read.
Yeah, so, my sister is we're not close. My sister and I are definitely not close to this day, even though it happened over 20 years ago.
Yeah. and do you know what? I apologize, because I said that almost in excitement. And you've got to think, when you're reading an article like that, or let's call it a story, when you're reading a story like that, it's true heartbreak. I obviously haven't read it, so I don't know yet. But
yeah,
you know, it's the type of story that, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but life isn't perfect, let's say, is it?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you, I'd like to have a read of that one.
Yeah,
But
I'll send you that one. I've written a few about my ex. She was emotionally and physically abusive throughout our whole relationship, and it was rough to get through it. But I loved her, and I loved her for a long time, even after we broke up. And it was really hard to see her with my sister because she was still living with my family at my house, and I had to see her every day. It was hard to try to process and get over all of those emotions because this is somebody I'd loved for 3+ years.
yeah,
Even though she was abusive to me, at the same time, you don't just stop loving someone,
no,
or at least that's what I think.
I agree. It's not
Yeah,
a light, it's not a light switch, is it? You can't just turn it off.
no. So I,
I mean,
I struggled for a while after that, and then I said, well, if I can't be with you, then maybe I'll see if I don't think I would want to be with another woman. Obviously I was with another woman after that, but around that time is when I started to explore that maybe I was a little more uh diverse in my sexuality. And that's
yeah,
when that was the first time I actually started discovering that I was attracted to men,
yeah,
was after my heartbreak with her. Because I was like, if I can't be with this woman, the woman that I love, I'm just gonna be with men. And that's
yeah,
kind of like what drove me to that. I was like, she broke my heart so devastatingly that, I mean, I had already kind of had an inkling of it before that, but it kind of drove me further.
mm,
And I was raised in like a very traditional like Catholic household, so being gay wasn't an option for me when I was younger. Like even if I had had those feelings back then, like my mom says, you're going to hell for that or whatever. Like it's that time. You understand that old style of thinking, that
I
traditional way.
do.
You said I think your father was like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, uh,
Yeah,
yeah. My father was, for a better word, turned very aggressive very quickly if something like that was mentioned, which is
yeah.
very, very shallow. But at the time, I didn't know any different.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah, my mom was very assertive in the same way with her beliefs.
Mm.
And she even told me at one point that if I had deviated from what she wanted me to do, that she would disown me. Like if I didn't marry a woman, if I didn't do this, if I didn't do that, then I would be disowned. So she loved that I was with my girlfriend, the one that came to live with us, the one who left me for my sister, because she was, not only was she a woman, but she was a Filipino woman, which is what my mom is. So
I mean,
she's like, oh, you.
how did your mother react to that? Because, you know, by definition of term, that means that your sister was gay as well. Then, if you like, so was that kind of a double whammy, or
uh, that kind of held me off from coming out at the time.
yeah?
It was my sister doing it first, and then my
Oh,
dad, and then my dad after. So my dad left my
okay.
mom like a couple of years after my sister did that, and he left
Yeah.
her for another man.
Wow.
So, and then so that was when I was about 23, 24. So I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I can't triple whammy my mom. Like she's losing her sister, I
Yeah.
mean her daughter, her husband, and her son. Like, what am I doing to this woman if I come out now? So I held off. My mom came to terms with the separation from my dad. They're on talking terms again. Like they're not married anymore. They separated and then divorced years later, but uh, they know that they need each other still because her kids have other kids. Like I have nieces and nephews from my other siblings. My brother has one kid and my sister has five, so she can't just cut off contact with them. Oh yeah, there's the spoiler too. My sister went back to being straight. She ended up being with a man and then having five kids. So yeah, I know. My eldest niece now is 15 years old.
It's
That's
just
crazy.
incredible, isn't it? I find
Yeah.
family so intriguing. As you know, I write about mine sometimes. I don't really write about my sisters too much. There's a heap of stories you could tell there. Probably none as juicy as yours, mine. Saying that, listen to what's been going on, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. Isn't it just funny the way life is, sometimes we've got a program in the UK called EastEnders that's like a drama program about families. And
Hmm.
we always say, this is better than an episode of EastEnders, because there's so much drama that goes on, and
Yeah.
it's incredible. I mean, thank you for sharing, your a little bit of your history, a little bit about growing up, and it sounds like a difficult time to have gone through. Thankfully, you're through that now. And what
Yeah.
I guess I have drawn from that more than anything is just your pure strength and your character to have seen you through that. Because I've got no doubt in my mind, having not been through it, I cannot say I understand, because I don't. I don't want to, come across as being disingenuous. I've never been through that, but I can only
Mhm.
imagine that. I can only imagine that must have been extremely difficult, particularly because of your sister and your father before you. And
Mhm.
I think you're an incredibly brave man, to be able
Thank
to
you.
do that and draw the strength from it. But also, in amongst all that, also consider your mother as well, which I find incredible. But hey, you've moved on, and you found a partner who loves you, and that's absolutely fantastic. And now you've
My
got some
mom
great.
loves my mom loves Mike too.
That's brilliant. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
she came around with that. Like, so when I first came out to her, I actually came out on social media about 11 years ago. I just went on Facebook. I said, you know what? Throw everything into the wind, and whoever doesn't like what I'm about to tell them can just get out of my life. I
Yeah,
wrote
they're not
that I
friends,
was
are
gay.
they? They're not
Yeah,
friends. They don't
yeah, I
accept you.
wrote,
They're not friends.
yeah. And then I came out to my mom. I called her that day. I was like, Mom, I'm gay. And then 2 years later, I met Mike. I've been with him for 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. She loves him. She Every time we're on the phone, when I call her, she's always like, she makes a point to say, I love you too, Mike.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice, especially from where you were originally.
Yeah.
What your mum said about, disowning you, let's say. I mean, that's come full circle. So, I mean, I guess a lot of credit's got to go to her. She's been through a lot of heartbreak as well.
Yeah.
So two incredibly strong people, which is really nice to hear. Oh wow, I'm taken aback a little bit by some of the things you've told me tonight, and I really appreciate you opening up. And I'm hoping there's many viewers out there now who, you never know, they might be going through a similar experience or having similar thoughts and maybe not sure what to do. And I guess you're an example of, if you believe in yourself first and foremost, and keep a strong mind, then that you can, I don't want to say achieve anything, because achieving is the wrong words, but being true to yourself, you'll come through it,
Definitely.
despite whether you got supporters or not. I just want to reiterate, anybody who, let's say, disowned you, they were never true friends in the first place. So what does matter is the friends you got now are true and proper friends.
Yeah.
For me, I'd rather have two good friends than 1,000 fake ones. So,
Hmm.
I mean, take comfort from that if you like. So.